I must wonder,
Mm.
is it your birthday today?
Yes,
Oh,
yes. Today's
happy
my birthday.
birthday.
Yeah.
Really
Thank
happy
you.
birthday.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. I
Usually,
don't.
like when I was younger, I was like I always wanted like like a parade.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
now I'm 55, and it's not really so much of it's more of a reminder that the end is coming than it is a celebration.
Yeah, well, but I think, well, it's no one's favorite thing to do on their birthday to have interviews, but well,
No, no, I don't mind it at all. No, not at all. You
okay, then let's go. So, uh,
Okay.
we have the re-release of Dead Again, Typo Negative,
Right.
coming back to
Yeah.
life for a period. What memories does the first issue of Dead Again bring back to you? Because if I'm not mistaken, it's actually the first album on which you recorded real drums. Is it true?
Yeah, we had done we we had done a couple of things with live drums, but the albums before that, while I was in the band, yeah, we used I did everything manually with
Hmm.
samplers and playing on a keyboard and doing stuff like that. And this was the first time that we recorded everything. We were all in a room together. Everything was recorded live, and it seemed like the material itself kind of called for it.
Didn't it feel frustrating before? Because you were an accomplished drummer, to not to play drums, to play keyboards instead of playing drums.
It had it had its advantages and its disadvantages. As far as like a creative tool, it was pretty helpful because they were always up to the last minute. I remember there were certain songs that after everything was like all the music, we had a drum track for a specific song. And then after all, like, the guitars and all the other instruments and the vocals were, like the song was basically finished. And we didn't like the way that the drums felt. So we could go in and change everything from under it to make the track feel better. So from like a creative point perspective, it was helpful that way because like you weren't, so to speak, stuck with the drum track if you weren't happy with it. Because
Yeah.
when you were recording live drums, that was it. Whatever was done, whatever you did was that was it. You couldn't change it afterwards. You were stuck with it. So it was cool in that way. Like the drawbacks from it, some of the dynamics and things like that were kind of hard to get across when you're doing stuff, working with MIDI drums and like little things, like little nuances and stuff that are you can't replicate some of that stuff with electronic drums as you would doing recording analog.
I was listening the other day to the album and, remembering Tripping a Blind Man with that strong Beatlesy influence you can hear everywhere with Typo Negative. And I was wondering,
Yeah.
how did the songwriting process go? I mean, obviously, Peter wrote the songs, but did he come with them demoed or did he come with just a basic idea and you were working on it? How did you do it
No,
for that
he
again, at least?
uh for Dead Again, he didn't have anything prepared.
Okay.
So we'd start uh we would just be sitting in a room in our rehearsal space and then coming up with ideas, like trying to pull stuff out of Peter. And like he would create while we were in the room together, and then we would build the songs from there. And like like he'd come up with a riff, and like we'd have the general idea of what that riff was and be like, okay, now where is the song going to go? And then we'd have, we'd have to come up with something, to follow it up with. And that's, so the record was written that way, in the room. It wasn't like uh, October Rust was the record where Peter was the most prepared before we got to rehearsal, where he had a lot of specific ideas. After that, it was you'd have to get in a room with them and just start jamming on ideas, and that's what Dead Again was. We spent I don't know how many months in the rehearsal studio just working on the songs, like, before they were recorded. We didn't do demos for that record. We just had rehearsed everything. Uh, we rehearsed everything to a point until like the songs were getting worse. Yeah, and then we had to stop because Peter was one of those people where he would always say, it's like the possibilities are endless. And so like he would hear something, like, we'd be working on a part of a song, he'd be like, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. And then it was like something would be cool the first time, and then it would gradually get worse because he wanted to try all these different things. And then finally it just got to a point where we were like, that's it. No more exploring possibilities. We're going into the recording studio next week. So whatever you want to do, you have a week to think about it.
How do
But yeah,
you
I remember that. I remember it was like like the songs were getting worse. It was like we got to stop doing this. We have to like the songs were cool. They were cool like this before. Let's just leave it alone. Let's just move on. And uh and that's what we did. Finally, we just booked studio time, and it was like that's it. The songs are finished, Peter.
it the album sounds very strong. I think from songwriting point and from playing, it sounds very good. It definitely doesn't sound like the album of a dying man, but it also doesn't sound like the album of a band at the end of its resources. So the band was really on a high when doing this album, I think, from
I
listening to.
I I think, well, from a personal point, Peter was in a pretty bad way at that point. Like, like Peter, it was after that record was released, after we finished the touring on the record, was when Peter finally made the choice of, getting sober and,
Yeah.
getting his life, getting a control of his life. And, so like at the point when we were making the record, it was pretty tough. It was pretty tough. And, but I think, for a band at that point, the band had been together for what, 18 years at that point, something like that. Like almost 20 years. And to make that record from a band that had been around that point, I thought that was pretty good. It wasn't, a lot of times you'll see a band will get to a certain point in their career, and it's not really that important for them to have to make a record.
Yeah.
Or like, and if they do, it isn't always like, their best effort put forward to make that record.
Exactly.
And like for us, it still had the same amount of effort and the same amount of drive to try to make. Really, it really was for us. We weren't looking at what we had accomplished in the past. We were just trying to make the best record that we possibly could.
Yeah,
And
which it is, and it's also your highest charting record. It's some bit of a paradox because it's the highest charting record. But if you ask people about Typo Negative, many will say, "Well, Bloody Kisses, October Rust." Not necessarily.
well,
It's less
yeah.
known.
Yes, well, with the when you look at the history and like how much our records have sold. Yes, October Rust and Bloody Kisses were our highest. Those records sold the most, so
Yeah,
we'll always be associated with like like that. That's that was like the high point, or that's what we'll be known for. And I think it was really, I think it was just coincidence that the record had such a high chart position. I just,
I was
you know,
wondering. Well, do you as a band, as former band members, play a role in these decisions or not? Because you have the re-release of Dead Again, but then the first video released is Love You to Death. Why not the song from Dead Again?
I think that was to. I mean, I don't know why that "Love You to Death" was chosen to be. I honestly, I had no idea it was even being released. I saw it online. I saw it like like on the news wires. Typo releases a new video. I was like, I really had no idea about it. I know that that was part of the tie-in with that was when we did the reissue of Dead Again, in the red vinyl with the red box set and
Yeah.
stuff, and that had footage from Wacken included in it. So I guess
Yes.
that's the tie-in to re-releasing this video. Um, but no, I had nothing to do with it. It wasn't my call.
Well, when
But
listening
we
to
but we do play a part in a lot of, in everything that's been going on, like with the reissues and stuff like that. And but that, like, as far as like reissuing that as a single, it's just I guess just a promotional item,
yeah,
you know.
well, it sounds very good. That particular Vakan performance sounds very good, despite
That's really all that matters.
yeah.
That's all that matters.
Well, when I'm listening to that again, one very particular song to me is "These Three Things." It's like a special chapter in the history of that album, and I was wondering, didn't this create some controversy? Because you see what's going on now, for instance, with this Roe versus Wade story, and a lot of musicians,
Yeah.
pointing themselves out as very righteous in the politically correct sense of the word. And well, for instance, these three things has this very clear anti-abortion stance, which is what
Yeah.
Peter believed. But didn't this create any controversy?
I mean, it wasn't as such of a polarizing topic as it is today. Being that, now that Roe v. Wade was reversed. Just when that record was released, it was a little controversial, only in the sense that it was Peter just expressing his personal views,
Yeah,
which this stuff really didn't come up in subject matter with songs. And this was just Peter. Like, I never really took much of an issue with it, because Peter wasn't one of those people that was very. He wasn't forcing these views down anybody's throat.
yeah,
Even with us, like, that's how we felt, and so that, to me, that was, it didn't bother me, because that's his own opinion.
yeah, of course.
So I didn't take I personally didn't take any offense to it. So I didn't see it as such a polarizing, or I didn't see it as a controversial issue at the time. But I guess you could look back at it now, and especially in today's climate, like, it really would have caused a shitstorm had that record come out this year.
Yeah, because and there is also this thing about Israel, and you look at a band with a huge box office such as Guns N' Roses. They removed one song, "One in a Million," from their reissue of the EP Guns N' Roses Lies, just
Oh,
because.
did they?
Yeah, 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 because
Oh, okay.
they use nigger
Yeah,
on
no,
that
I
song, and
I know
yeah,
the
and
lyrical
they
content.
yeah, yeah, and they reissued the two albums, actually Appetite for Destruction with Lies attached, without that
Right.
song. And
Oh, okay.
just yeah, due to that pressure, I think
Right.
nowadays Peter might have been a victim of cancel culture, don't you think so?
Peter, yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah,
the
yeah.
band, well,
Peter, yeah. As unfortunate as it was that Peter passed away, it was like he picked, like, the perfect time,
yeah,
because he never I don't think he could have, like, he wasn't the kind of person that was suitable for these times. There was nothing ever politically correct about Peter.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
And this, like, now in this day and age, he would have been losing his mind.
But no
Yeah.
pressure on you from the record company or from anyone in the press to.
No, no, not really. I mean, because it's not. I mean, the way that he wrote those lyrics, they're not attacking. It's him just sharing his own opinion.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like, like, if you're going to get canceled for just sharing how you feel, then, who really has the problem?
of course. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Who's got the
Yeah,
bigger problem? Like, somebody feels a certain way, and they say, "Oh yeah, I feel like A."
yeah, yeah,
You shouldn't be canceled because of that. He wasn't. taking an active, aggressive stance towards being pro-life, and like taking steps to try to make everyone
Yeah,
trying to create change that way. He was just stating this is the way he felt personally,
yeah, which
and
I
that's
totally, well, which I
that,
find natural. But as you said, in
right.
these times, it would have been hard for him.
Oh yeah, they would have been outside his house with pitchforks and fire for sure.
Yeah, yeah, probably. Well,
you know,
yeah, please.
no, I'm just saying, like, I just never, it seemed very much after the fact it became more of a discussion. Later on, like when the record first came out, there was a little bit of mention of it saying, I would see some discussions online about, Peter having a pro-life stance,
Yeah.
but
Um,
I never saw anything as like, he didn't come off as like, being preachy, like even with his own, like with his own faith, and his beliefs in his faith. He was never really preachy or trying to, like trying to convert me or anything like that. So I never really took offense to it. I was like, oh well, that's what he's into. That's what he believes. Good for him.
yeah, yeah, that's great.
You know, yeah,
Um, when the band really started taking its shape, the shape that defines Typo, because I think that the Typo everyone knows starts with Bloody Kisses. It's after Slow, Deep, and Hard and Origin of the Feces, which
yeah,
was somehow a post-carnivore thing. Well, you were not in the band, but you kind of were with the band even from then. Did you feel that
yeah.
something really unique is taking shape, that something new, something
I,
that will,
I felt that way when I first heard the demos for the first record.
well,
Like, I came from like I was a big Carnivore fan.
yeah,
And we used to, Kenny and I used to go see them like every time they played at Lemoore, stuff like that. This was, years before Typo was even started. And when they were doing, when they did Slow, Deep, and Hard, I felt that had more of a profound impact on me as a fan, because I really felt, especially for the time, Typo was doing something that nobody else was doing. Like, you were just getting out of, like that MTV phase where you had like a lot of like the hair metal bands and stuff, and then grunge was taking over. And then here was this band from Brooklyn, Typo, doing something completely unique unto itself. And I thought the lyrics were great. I thought the lyrics were like they were, somebody that was really expressing a lot of pain, but at the same time they were really funny, a lot of tongue in cheek, sarcasm and humor in it, which I thought was great. And it was like, like the music could be very melancholy, it could be aggressive, but it had great melody in it too, and it had a, like an industrial edge to it, with a lot of like, the samples that were being used in the rhythmic ways, and you know, I just thought it was something really, really unique. And then uh, when they started working on Bloody Kisses, I remember hearing the demos for Bloody Kisses, and that really kind of made me take a step back. It was like, what are these guys doing? I was like, Peter's starting to like sing, and there's like, like it was like there was a much stronger like Beatles influence, and
yeah,
more. To me, there was more of a pop element on that record than there was from Slow, Deep, and Hard. And so that one took me. It took me a little bit to like really get into it. Meanwhile, like the first record, when it, the first time I heard Pain, I was like, this is fucking amazing. This is so heavy, and it's so intense and powerful. When I started hearing the songs off Bloody Kisses, it kind of like took me back a second. I was like, where are they going with this? Like, and then shortly there, it took me a little while, but then I fell in love with that record also. And but really like like the first record was the one that made the most impact on me. But a lot of people they don't, they're not really familiar with that record. Most of our fans, only like the hardcore Typo fans are really familiar with that record.
well, I
But
am familiar with, I'm a
but I mean
hardcore fan.
it but it was cool to see how the band was like doing different things with each record instead of just staying in the same place. I thought it was the boldest move. I thought was the October Rust record. That was really that was a bold move to take the band's music into that direction because you had the success. We were literally coming off of the strong success of Bloody Kisses. I guess a lot of people were expecting
Bloody Kisses
another
too.
Bloody
Yeah.
Kisses, right? And we didn't. We went to another place musically, which was I thought it was really bold. It was a very bold artistic move. Maybe not the best financial decision that could have been made, but it was cool that we did something that wasn't expected.
And I think this
Yeah.
applies to all your records because even Dead Again is no, what you would expect
Right. Yeah.
after
Yeah.
listening to the other stuff.
Right. And
Well,
I saw Dead Again as like it seemed like a culmination of everything that we've done
yeah,
in the past because you can hear the lineage to the first record as you can throughout all of the band's catalog up to that point. But it has its own feel, its own vibe. It's doing its own thing, but you can hear that that it came from those places. And really, the only thing that was ever a priority with Typo was that whatever we did sounded like Typo Negative.
yeah,
So whether we were doing something that was like like really really heavy or really doom laden, or if we were doing something that had a very strong pop element to it, or more Beatles type influence, or whatever we were doing, it was just important that it sounded like Typo Negative doing it, not Typo Negative trying to sound like like this band, or trying to sound like the Beatles, or trying to sound like like whatever. We have our Duran Duran moments,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
or Devo. It wasn't as long as whatever we were doing sounded like us doing it. That's what was we wanted it to sound like Typo Negative, and that was ultimately what was important to us. And I think we achieved that for sure.
Yeah, I think you achieved that
Yeah,
even when
yeah.
you're doing cover songs because I was listening back then when it came out to the Nativity in Black, the Black Sabbath tribute, and Typo Negative's cover really sounds like Typo Negative, just as Hey Joe turned to Hey Pete sounds like Hey Pete and
Right.
so on.
Even stuff like that. When we would do covers, we were trying to do the song in a way. It would be like, all right, we're covering the song. We're covering, whatever, Cinnamon Girl, or
Yeah,
whatever, Black Sabbath, Paranoid. It was, how would this song sound had we written it? Not just trying to cover the song just to do a cover, which I've done plenty of those too, where
yeah,
it's
yeah,
fun doing that. But when we were putting it on a record, it was more about how would this song have turned out had we written it. So that was
yeah.
our approach to doing it. So like things would get changed up, and like there were songs that we would cover, like we would work on songs. Say there was at one point we were talking about Peter wanted to cover "She Sells Sanctuary" from the Cult,
Hmm.
right? So we're in the rehearsal studio and we're working on it. We're trying to work out, a version of it, and then it wound up getting scrapped because it was sounding too much like the original. It was like there was nothing. We weren't doing anything to make it sound like Typo Negative. It was just us playing a cover. So it wound up getting scrapped. We never recorded it or anything, but but
Yeah,
that's just a for instance of our approach to doing someone else's songs.
yeah, I remember I was rehearsing for a cover concert with some pals, and we wanted to cover Summer Girl, and to us, Summer Girl
Right.
was a song by Type O Negative. We of course knew it's Seals and Croft, but no,
Right.
Summer Girl by Type O Negative. It's
Yeah.
without any doubt like that. Um, have you? I know, a music writer, Jeff Wagner, has written a biography of Peters,
Yeah, I'm
and
familiar with it. Yeah.
he said you guys didn't really want to get involved. You didn't disapprove of it, but you didn't want to get involved in it. So why was
Yeah,
that?
there was just some things that were going on that we just like I know for me there was just something, it just didn't feel like the right vehicle to tell Peter's story.
Okay.
like for me to participate in it. What the other guys felt, like that's Josh doesn't really do anything except go on a
Well, speaking of
lives, and so he doesn't, he really doesn't participate in a lot of stuff, regarding the band. Um, especially with like whatever, doing like interviews or like like to participate in a book. He doesn't really have any interest in it.
well, speaking of
And
Josh, there's been rumors about you doing some sort of live thing, like a tribute and so on. And you said, I remember reading an interview with you a couple of
you
years
know,
ago. You said that should include Josh, and he doesn't want to hear about it. Is it still the same?
nothing. Josh is like the picture of consistency.
Okay,
He's the poster child for it. And no, what I had said was that, like, I think that there should be something for Peter. Of course, like, Peter should be celebrated, and I see it all the time how he's celebrated. Like, fans still, like, revere him. They revere his music. They still hold it in very high regard, and it still seems to be pretty popular amongst a lot of people. But as far as like any kind of like tribute or something like that, the point I was making was that if we if I was to ever, like, be involved in something like that, it would have to be with everyone.
of course.
Like, it wouldn't be like I couldn't see myself, like, just me doing a Typo tribute, with a bunch of other players or whatever. Like, it would have to include, it would have to have me, Kenny, and Josh.
Yeah, it's a song.
Before there was ever any discussion about anything, and like, I know for a fact, is like, as far as I know, the sun's going to rise in the east. Josh is not going to do anything like
Okay, okay.
that. He's not, and which is fine. Like,
Yeah,
that's him, and But I was saying, if there was ever to be anything like that, it would have to have all of us involved. It would have to be an all or nothing thing. That's all.
as they do with Pantera right now, having the two surviving members.
Right. So that's an all or nothing thing. Like, you couldn't have just Philip doing it or Rex. It would have
Yeah,
to be the both of them.
because
So
Phil was doing it, but he was doing it under another name, which is fair.
right. Yeah. And it was a different thing. It is different. But he was out there. He's been out there playing Pantera songs for years.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
exactly.
which
Well,
I like. Like, if I was to do that, I would have to do the same thing. I couldn't go out there with just me.
yeah,
Just I'm
those,
Typo negative now.
yeah, 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 or Johnny, yeah,
Yeah. I'm
or
Typo negative with a bunch of different people. Pay me money and I'll play you some Typo songs for
yeah,
an
yeah, yeah.
hour.
Johnny Kelly's Typo Negative.
Right. Yeah, you can't I can't do that. It would have to be an all or nothing thing. And I just don't see it happening. It's never been a discussion, honestly, between the three of us.
Yeah,
We've never had that conversation of, well, maybe we should do, like, a tribute or something like that. It's never been discussed. Once Peter passed away, we were like, that's it.
yeah.
That's a Typo negative as an active band is no more.
Fair enough. So,
Yeah.
Typo Negative as a band is no more, but what are you up to these days? Because you've been very active with your own bands, now with Quiet Riot, as you were saying,
Yeah, I
working with
mean,
Danzig on and off.
I have to keep busy.
Yeah,
you know. Yeah, I mean, I've been playing with Quiet Riot now for a couple of years. Years. Well, my years get lost after the pandemic, and so we lost like 2 years.
yeah,
So I'm thinking, oh yeah, it wasn't that long ago or whatever. But now I guess it's going on. Like, I've been playing in Quiet Riot now for like almost 4 years,
yeah, because you've
which
been
is
stepping in for Frankie when he was still alive and he could not do it.
yes,
So
yeah,
you started
yes,
back then.
yeah. So I think I started playing with Quiet. I think it was like 2019. I think
Yeah,
I did my first shows with them, and now we have Rudy Sarzo back in the band, which is pretty exciting.
yeah, yeah.
And he's an icon in his own right, and like, we just sit there and ask him tell me stories. So what was it like this? Like, so you play with Ozzy, like, he's had such a storied career. The guy's not short. He's like, he's done it all. So and so doing that, what Kill Devil Hill has a record coming out this year.
Yeah.
Finally, like we started working on that record like 2 years ago, and it's finally coming out.
Are you
I
going to
believe,
tour for it?
if time allows. I mean, it's really hard to get any band on the road now,
Yeah.
and like whether it's something that would be like 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 an actual tour, or if we can get a string of a couple of shows together, a few shows, who knows? We don't know. We'll have to see what's available to us. What we can do, what time allows, and what the budget allows. Like if there's a budget for anything like that. Today's my birthday. I turned 55. I can't get away with just my good looks anymore.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, unfortunately.
It doesn't put gas in the bus.
Yeah, it does. Well, if ever the possibility allows it, Kill Devil, he'll bring the band to Romania, and I think Quiet Riot's never been to
No,
Romania, so you can tell the guys or the
I
management.
I think that I from what I understand, like Quiet Riot didn't spend a lot of time in Europe at all. Like
Yeah,
even back then they didn't go to Europe too much. When was I played in Romania a couple of years ago with the Pale Horse. I was there.
with whom?
A Pale Horse named Death.
Oh, with
We played.
yeah. That's true.
Yeah,
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 Pale
yeah.
Horse named that to play Romania. Yeah, that's true.
That was right before the pandemic started. Right, that tour
Exactly.
we got home that tour that winter, and then everything shut down.
Well,
And then Silver Tomb has a record coming out this year.
yeah.
It's we're just about done with it. I think I'm waiting for one more song from Kenny,
Okay.
and then we'll have like the whole record finished. I think.
Oh, so you're keeping busy.
Uh,
That's
what
really nice.
Yeah, yeah. I've been trying to make the best of the situations. Like when I was during the pandemic and I was home a lot, I started getting into more like doing more home recordings.
Yeah.
So I've been doing some session work and stuff, which has been fun, and keeps the lights on.
You've been working. One last thing, you've been working with two very particular guys, lead singers with a strong personality, and I mean Peter on one
Yeah,
hand and Glenn Danzig. What do you
yeah.
think is the main thing they have in common and the main difference between the two?
Uh, I don't know. Like, I guess like they were both kind of odd in being eccentric, but the both of them are very intelligent. They're both very very intelligent guys. Well versed, like well read guys. Uh, both of them, they have their quirks and their idiosyncrasies and stuff. But they like they're both of them are really cool guys. I mean, I get along great with Glenn,
Yeah.
and he's always been to me, he's just like one of those like East Coast guys, and
Yeah, yeah,
like like things kind of settled in with Glenn when his lineup, the band when Steve Zing came into the band. So you had Steve Zing, you had Tommy Victor, and myself. We're all New York, New Jersey guys, and then when Glenn was around that, then it was like things started to then we became like a gang.
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
A unit.
Yeah. And but it's uh I mean, I must be doing something right. I've been playing with them for 20 years now.
Yeah.
This year will be 20 years that I've been playing in Danzig. And he's always been good to me. And we have a good relationship. Yeah, I send him Christmas cards on Christmas, and call him up on the holidays. But
Well,
and his catalog speaks for itself.
yeah, yeah. course.
and he's been but he's been really busy with his movies. He's been working on movies now, and he's been doing some misfit shows. Has them like scattered about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But like I haven't played with him all that much in the last couple of years. There just really hasn't been all that much going on. And the last trip that he had, I wasn't able to do. And right now, I don't know if there's anything on the schedule coming up. I hope there is. Because I love playing in the band. I wouldn't
Yeah,
have been doing it for 20 years if I didn't like it.
definitely. Well, Johnny, thank
So
you very much for this interview.
uh,
Um,
thanks, man. Sorry for all the
really, no
mishaps
problem.
getting it done.
Really, no
I,
problem. And good luck with your shows. And well, looking forward
th-
to seeing you on the road.
I hope so. I hope to see you.
Thank you,
I got to
Johnny.
get back over there. All right. Have a
Bye.
good one. Thank you.
See
Bye
you.
bye.
You too. Bye. Thanks.